Hi, this is Elena, your mommy tantrum specialist. And I'm already laughing with myself before I even started because I was thinking I cannot start by saying this will be a special episode because I say it every time. But it is, ladies, it is. Because this time I'm coming not only with no notes as I usually do, with the exception of like the last episode, which was heavily scripted because I shared my entire training presentation with you. This is exactly the opposite. Usually I don't have any, like, I have few notes only about the structure where I want to get. Today I don't have even that. So if you have maybe controlling perfectionist tendencies, maybe this episode is not going to be your jam, and that's okay. You can go to any of my other episodes that are extremely structured and that have a clear beginning and end. This might not be one of them. I'm going to play it heavily on my intuition today because now getting like, why would I do something like that? Come so unprepared for the next podcast. It's because I jumped straight into my work week this week. Monday was Easter Monday, so there was no work. And today, on Tuesday, I started my work week with already 2 calls this morning, and I have one more at night. And they are just aha moments all over. And even though I keep usually a list of topics that I would like to turn into podcast episodes for you, so I have maybe like 6, 7 ideas there at all times. Every time I finished, like I had those 2 sessions today already with my clients. After each of these, I was like, well, there would be at least 3 another great ideas for another great podcast episode. And I couldn't decide which one to do. And I had the overall feeling like either this can be my behind the scenes episode, like what happens, how my day looks like, but more importantly, sharing those aha moments that I saw my clients had today. So there might not be one topic we are going to address today, but kind of a buffet for you, open menu, come and pick the one that will talk to you. Because I do believe in the power of intuition. And I used to be a super high achiever, super controller, perfectionist, always like planning, organizing, structuring, preparing in advance to be the most efficient and productive and so well organized, no space for error, no space for delay. And while that has its strengths and advantages, I realize there's also the other side of it might also be useful in many situations of your life. Like, how often do you listen to your intuition? How often do you go with your gut feeling? Do you allow yourself any margin for surprises? I don't even want to say margin for error, like for mistakes, because for me, there are no mistakes. That's part of the mindset. We are already getting into it. You see, this is the first learning point. What if you looked at it that whatever you're afraid of, whatever mistake you're afraid of making, what if it was an opportunity to go ahead with your intuition? What would happen then? And what is maybe some safe way how you could do it? I'm not saying that you have to wing it the next time you have a work meeting or something important coming up. I'm not saying do not prepare. But what is your intuition telling you to do? And you've been rejecting it, avoiding it for the fear of making a mistake. So this is me, practical example of doing this, making this episode, going on with my guts. And I am convinced that this will be valuable for you. Because I can already, let me rewind my day. So the first session I had was a group session for my membership. So there are women that I'm working with. They finished the 6-week mental fitness bootcamp, which was helping them to stop being the yelling moms and become much more calmer, centered. And whenever they get off balance again, because like whatever stuff life throws at you, that happens all the time, right? Things you cannot control, things you cannot anticipate. So then you just have to deal with it and clean it up. How can you bounce back so that you recover your calm even in the middle of that chaos? So they did the 6-week program. Now they're in the membership. because we have 3 group calls per month. So this is kind of the ongoing accountability support where they can come, show up live, get my coaching in the group, so that they not only benefit from, like, how often do you find that you need that, having that second look? Because you're stuck in your story. You're so deep in your story that you don't see all the aspects that you've been missing. And this is exactly what she shared. So the woman who was there today on the hot seat, there were several things we worked on, but one of the things that stood out so for me, because that was one of the points when she got the most emotional, was when she realized that she doesn't have any other place where she could open up in the same way that she can do here in these group calls. And I could feel her energy shifted even more dramatically as she was saying that, as she realized it. And it was bittersweet, because on one hand, the bitter piece is like, I have nowhere else to go. But the sweet, like the good thing about it was, well, at least I have this place. And it made me think back, like after the call, not in the moment I was with her. I didn't get triggered by it. But when I was thinking about the call afterwards, when I hang up, was really that this was the strongest moment for me, because I clearly remembered how it felt for me when I was in that situation of a mom who was at the end of my wits, at the end of my rope, at the end with my energy. It felt like everything is gone. I have nothing left. There's nobody I can talk to about it. Because I know my husband, like, he adores me so much, and I felt he will not understand. I cannot tell him what I'm feeling, because he will try to solve it for me. He will feel guilty that it's his fault. He will feel like he cannot help me. So I will basically transfer my stress. I will do the emotional vomit, I call it. I will do that on him, and that will infect him too. So he will no longer be that calm parent himself. So I felt like I had no other place. Well, not no other place. I had no place to go until I created this group for other moms. And I was like, I wish somebody did that for me, or I found it when I was in trouble, because I had to find my own way. But that's exactly why I'm having this membership now, and why I think I keep being not reassured. It keeps being confirmed every time we have these calls. And then I hear even from the ladies who couldn't join live, they just watch the replays. Every time they get help. That's the power of also working in the group. It doesn't mean that you didn't have the hot seat, you were not coached by me, that you don't get help. So often when we are caught up in our victim stories, we think like, it feels, at least, and you can let me know how it feels to you, it felt to me that I was the only one, like there's something wrong with me because I cannot deal with it. It looks like everybody else is able to find their way. Not everybody is happy. Some moms are yelling at their kids. They're okay with it. Well, who am I to judge them? I'm not perfect myself. But I felt like what I was going through was so unique that nobody could understand. And definitely I didn't feel comfortable sharing with anybody because I was afraid of being judged, not being understood, and damaging my relationships if I share with somebody what I'm going through. And I knew they couldn't help me anyway. So it would be like for nothing. For what? Just to do my emotional vomit, and then what? There would be no resolution either, because I knew they couldn't save me. I couldn't save myself. So back out of my gloomy story, back over to now. This is what I love about the group calls. And it's something that I had no idea before that it could exist, it could help, and the power of it. Even if it's not you on the hot seat, you still get help. Yes, your story is unique. Yes, your situation is special. And you can get help with it even by hearing somebody else going through their struggle. Because there are lots of things we have in common, like that mom guilt, shame, judging yourself, comparing yourself to others. That's what we are all going through. that unconditional love you want to give your kids, even though you might not have gotten enough of that when you were growing up. I can guarantee you 95% of moms are going through the same. Okay, I don't have any statistics for you. I'm saying 95%. Okay, maybe dramatic. Well, at least for sure, most of the moms I talk to, okay, they go through the same. So what I would invite you to take out of this, like my first aha moments of today that I wanted to share with you, which is that what can be the power of being heard, the power of you finding your tribe, finding a safe place where you can share, not being with it alone anymore, not feeling all that toxic energy, all those victim stories playing over and over again, the same thing. It's only making you feel worse. So please, this is an invitation for you. Go out there, find your help, find your tribe, find a place where you're comfortable. And if you would like to find out if working with me is part of it, then do reach out, of course. I don't want to turn this into a sales episode. Look how great I am, and just come and I will solve all of your problems in 24 seconds. That's not what I'm doing, but I feel I would do you service. Like if you're listening to this episode and maybe you have listened to other episodes, I feel like this is exactly why I'm doing the podcast and everything that I'm doing, right? My intention is to help as many moms as possible, like as many of you as will want my help. So this is my open, reached out hand to you. Take it if you want it. If you don't want, that's okay. No problem. Okay. So this is I think I labeled it in my mind like the power of being heard, not being alone with it. Like not keeping it a secret that only you have to sit with. That was the biggest aha I had from the call this morning. And then I had a one-to-one session with the client. It was our session number 3. And there I didn't even get to the point that I would identify like one big aha moment, because she is so amazing. It was only session number 3. And she's doing already so much better than before. She decided to space out her sessions because every time I give her like we go through so much in 45 minutes, we go through so many things. And so then she can keep working in between our sessions on it. So she likes having time, like not to stress herself out. So she's spacing out her sessions a month apart. And I know you're listening to the podcast as well. So thank you. You see how awesome you are. You're even a podcast inspiration again. But what I loved about the session with her was to see the progress. So how much you can do, even in like we had only 2 sessions in the past. And there was one more thing I wanted. Yes, and what stood out for me was that even though actually she did so much and she improved so much since we met. But what stood out for me when we started talking, when we started the session, that she didn't give herself enough credit for it. This is yes, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Now it's coming to me, like what was the biggest thing? I hear it, and this is the one thing that we all have in common. Like I mentioned, we all have unique stories, but there's stuff that we all go through. And this is the sinusoid, like the up and down in your life. And sometimes it's more up and sometimes it's more down. Sometimes it's like in the middle, whatever. It's never the same. And I see this with lots of my clients. They come, they start getting the help. Sometimes it's the first time in their life when they really start cleaning up all of their stuff from the past and everything they want to get rid of. They get a big boost at the beginning. Okay. Because now they are like, okay, now finally I found something that works for me. This is so amazing. And within the first few days, they go up. And then the funny thing is what our mind does. The up becomes your new normal. you get used to it feeling better, right? So then anytime you have less than that, it feels like a dip. And what happened with this particular client, she came into the session. My first question always is like, what are we celebrating? What are the wins? Let's focus on what's working so that you give yourself the pat on the back. So she told me all these amazing things. And then she said, well, and then when I asked, like, what are we going to work on today? She said, yeah, but it feels like I'm going back, or like I'm going down again. And I'm like becoming more strict with my daughter again, and more yelling, or like more whatever. And she was going back into her story and going down the spiral again. So what I had to do actually was a reframe and take a bigger picture, like zoom out of this detailed nitty-gritty day-to-day beating herself up for this and for that and all those stories. I had to zoom out as if like taking a helicopter, looking at the bigger picture, and tell her, look, like the judge, the inner critic in your head wants you to believe that you are back at the beginning where we started working together. But look at this, it's not true. Look how far you've gone. Look what a tremendous healing you've had on yourself, and repeating back to her everything, like how she is different with her daughter, what the results she has already gotten on her relationship, even with her own mom. Like, how amazing is that? This is, some people never get to that even till the rest of their life. They never clean up the relationship with their parents. And she has already done that. We did only 2 sessions together. So I told her, look, you're not back where you started. It's just that feeling good, feeling calm became your new norm, your new standard, and you're judging yourself by that higher standard now. And yes, you had a little dip, and that's completely normal because it shows you what's the next thing you should work on to get even better. And that will become your new standard. That will become your new normal. You see? So how this relates to you? Where are you in your life when you're not giving yourself enough credit? What are you not celebrating enough? What has become your new norm? And you're not appreciating it unless you lose it, or until you lose it and slip. And it's so funny. One of the silly examples for me would be my daughter's sleep. I used to be really a sleepless zombie because she didn't sleep well at all, not through the night. She didn't sleep during the day, even like since she was 2 years old. She had no naps during the day. I was like, where are you taking all the energy from? I need to sleep and you don't want to. Come on. And then, without me even noticing, she started sleeping better as she was growing up. Now she's sleeping through the night. But the moment, now we were just 2 weeks ago, I think, we were switching from the winter time to summertime. And there was some disruptions. So she didn't handle the switch as good as she normally does. And suddenly I could feel it. How it feels in my body to not get enough sleep again. To be awake, like to have to be with her in the room until like 10, 11 p.m., which normally never happened. So I was becoming the until I caught myself and realized what I was doing. But that was my first natural reaction. Like, here we go again. I know this place very, very well, very intimately. I don't want to be here again. And like, victim stories in my head. Because it became my new normal. Feeling better, having enough sleep. And I realized I was not appreciating it enough. I took it as the new standard. I was not grateful enough. What a luxury it is. What a great feeling it is to have a full night of sleep. And I'm not saying like, you ungrateful woman. But this is an invitation that has like several layers. Choose which one speaks to you right now. But what are the things where you don't give enough credit to yourself for how much you have already grown and improved? It just became your new norm, so you didn't see it, you didn't appreciate it enough. You're not grateful enough to yourself or to somebody else. Like, I was not grateful enough to my daughter. Like, she's appreciating that she's grown up and she's sleeping through the night most of the times. Because this is the perspective that then makes you be more present and appreciative, and it's not all just the victim stories and this is wrong and this is wrong and that's why I deserve to be angry and frustrated. It shifts your perspective. Like, what is actually going great that I appreciate it only when I lose it? Let's appreciate it when we have it before we lose it. That's one. And second one is looking at your life, really how you're going in stages, and being okay with what is, without attaching yourself to being at a certain place. Like, by now I should be here, like so high up. By now I should have figured it out. Or how come I'm going down when I was already up? What's wrong with me? Nothing. That's life. It's never the same. No stage is the same. And it's okay. It doesn't mean anything about you. If you want to take it to the ninja level, you could also reframe whatever experience whenever it starts feeling heavier after you thought like, oh, I thought I got it, but apparently I didn't, and being upset with yourself. An opportunity for reframe could be, well, I got the first part, and so now this part being more difficult, I can take it as heavier weights in the gym for me to lift. I can lift the easy ones already. So, okay, life, game on. You're making it heavier. So it's an opportunity for me to get stronger, right? The heavier weight, the stronger muscles you're building. So reframing whatever like hurts you right now, where you feel you're not good enough, not as good as your inner critic would wish, take it as a training. You're training to be a super strong super mom, and you're getting better every day by lifting this weight. And how can you start lifting it in a way that you will not get hurt by? That you can make it like a slow, steady practice. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes life just throws at you whatever, and then you just need to breathe and sleep. That happens a lot, and that's okay. Well, then that's the practice you needed for today. How do I just breathe and sleep and do nothing else? That's my path today. I accept it. Mission accepted. Being okay with what is, not judging it. How far, how high, or how slow. That might be your next invitation for my next part of my day. Now, the last part of my day is going to be at least like the live connection that I have. I work in between the sessions on different things, but the last live session that I will have is in the evening. And I was thinking it's funny because I started at 9 a.m. with the first group session with my clients, and I will have the last one at 9 p.m. after my daughter falls asleep. I'm crossing my fingers if you're listening to the podcast and not watching the video. At 9 p.m. And that's going to be a group session for public, for my Zen Supermom audience. So they're not clients yet. And I was thinking how a couple of years back, it would have been part of my victim story. Oh, poor me. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in between, taking care of my daughter, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry I'm looking at right now and everything. Like, oh, poor me, I have to do so much. Not anymore. That's not my victim story anymore. This is the power of the shifts that I do in my programs and one-to-one. How can you choose to see your story from a perspective where it's whatever struggle becomes a gift or opportunity? So how I'm seeing my schedule now, first of all, it was my choice to make it this way. Nobody forced me to do any of these meetings at these times. It was my choice. And I chose to do it because that's what works best for me. At 9 p.m., my daughter's already in bed, so I can do whatever, even during her holidays, or even at the times when she's sick. Like my husband is already usually at home at that time. So this is the safest time for me to work. Yes, it's late, but if it's only a few times a week, I don't have any problem with that. And also because most of the women I work with now, they are in Europe, they're in the same time zone as I am. So it's the same for them. If I do sessions during the day, there are usually lots of kids around and they are distracted. They cannot give me their full attention. It doesn't work as well. So this is one thing, shifting the victim stories. Another thing why I wanted to share this is what I actually had to do with myself today, which is related to the fact that I became more empathetic. So I was a coach already before I had my daughter. I was doing career coaching. Even before I became a coach, I was corporate leader in human resources for a big international technology company. So I was in this, like I was starting already back then. I was coaching, I was training, I was doing lots of communications trainings. But only after I became a mom, and then even more after I did my trauma therapy training and practice, I started noticing that I used to be a lot in my head, like this logical brain functions, cut off from everything else. I became much more tuned into my emotions and my body, including. And that made me much more sensitive and tuned into others people's, like their emotions and energy, just the level of energy. And I don't know if I would call myself an empath. To be honest, I don't even know what that means. I think it's just somebody who can feel a lot of feelings. Like that's what it is for me. But I definitely started feeling more. And maybe it's because I started working with lots of women on heavier topics. Like before in the corporate world, people are not going to talk about their trauma, right? It's more like surface level, help me get more effective and my communication better towards my team, or a team building. How can we glue this team together? Blah, blah, blah. That's much more surface level than when I switched from coaching into really like a therapy coaching practice, talking about somebody else's like sexual abuse trauma from their childhood that then resulted in her daughters being sexually abused as well, because it's just something like that became generational. Like that's a whole new level, and you start feeling a whole new bunch of emotions that I was not used to before. So that might have been also part of my victim stories, feeling emotionally drained, because that's what I do. I listen to people all day long, every day almost, because I have professional deformation as well. I do the same with my friends. Well, not trying to help them without them asking, but I hear more than what they say, actually. I read between the lines. It's drowning. It was, at least at the beginning. I felt like I had no way to protect myself. I felt all the emotions of others, and it felt overwhelming. And I didn't know how to protect myself. So why I'm sharing this? Because you might be, just might, in a similar position. Because I tend to, with my hyperachiever, like super pumped up story, I tend to attract lots of women, super smart, super successful in their head. Let me grasp it with my logical brain so that I can change it. And it doesn't work. And when we start working together, they start connecting much more with their intuition. You see, we keep coming back to the intuition today. And once they start connecting more with their intuition and emotions, they become much more sensitive. And then they realize they've been avoiding feeling emotions. And for that fear of feeling, they were strengthening even more the logical capacity of their brain to protect themselves. So they stay in the head for the fear of going into the body. And lots of them call it like, I'm worried to open that can of worms or that Pandora box because I don't know what's going to jump out. I'm not ready for it. Like, I'm not going there. It's too dangerous. Like, I have no idea what's deep inside of me. I don't want to go there. That's where they usually start with me. And once they do, by the way, that's where I started as well. I was so much in my head, like, let me understand this, but from a safe distance. Let's not take too personal and emotional here because I want to stay in control. Okay, that's where I started too. So no judgment here at all. I completely understand because that's where I started too. But once you actually start opening that can of worms or that Pandora box and you start taking it out one by one and healing it, whatever is there, waiting for you to be healed, then you start becoming much more sensitive as well. And you might become an empath as well. Because I believe we all are. We are born with that. This is our natural talent as babies when we are born. Because we don't understand the language we are born into. We don't understand the rules of the big adult world. But we do have immense capacity to observe and sense the energy of our environment and to adapt to it. We are born basically little scientists, like, let me test this and I will see what result I get. And then let me repeat with little modification to see if it gets better. And just like, that's how we learn, right? That's how we grow up. It's all about this. So we have tremendous intuition and empathy when we are born. So I believe you have it too. No matter how heady, no matter how smart your logical brain is, how much you're preventing yourself from feeling for the fear of what's going to come up, you have that intuition too in yourself. And once you get to the point when you get connected with it and you get scared, because then, okay, well, how do I do that now? Because now it's too overwhelming. I'm feeling too much. How do I protect myself from being overwhelmed by all these emotions? And especially for me now, looping it back with my story of having a full day or like having several sessions today with different people where I am sharing a lot of my energy and I'm absorbing a lot of energy of my clients so that I can help them better. Well, how do you protect yourself in that situation? How do you protect yourself from being impacted in a negative way? So for this, and especially if you're somebody who works with people and who tends to take a lot of their energy on and you don't want that, you want it to stop, at least the negative effects of it, there's something that's called mental hygiene, I think, for empaths. I would even call it, look what happens if you Google it, mental hygiene for empaths. I developed my own little practice. Usually before each session, I try to just center in a quiet moment, just for a few minutes, like to leave everything that I don't want, like everything out of my life, leave it outside so that it doesn't impact my clients, so that I don't project my fears, my limiting beliefs, my traumas onto that. I leave it behind. Like whatever has happened to me before, whatever is going to happen next, I leave it aside. So that's already a good place to start with, that I'm entering clean. But then also to make sure that I don't take on anything that's not mine after the session. I visualize myself, especially if it's something like really heavy. If I'm working on somebody's like sexual trauma is for me the heaviest so far, and especially when it comes to young girls or kids. So what I do after sessions like that, usually I just sit for a moment and I imagine golden rain falling on me. Like as if I was in a shower, but it's like a golden light that's falling on me. It's not wet, it's golden light, and it's just washing away everything, like any negative emotions, fears, or like sadness, any feelings of injustice and feeling sorry for my clients, like what happened to that, the fact that I cannot turn back the time to take it away. Like everything that you feel like you would want to do and you cannot, all of that regret, everything, like I just shower it away with that golden light, like that golden shower of light that's just falling over me, and I let it all go down to the earth. I visualize that. That's the image that I have in my head. And I invite you to do something for yourself. Like if you feel like you're an empath who's catching a lot of other negative emotions that you don't want to be part of your life because you're already carrying enough of yours, see what you might want to do. Like there's no limits in your imagination. What do you want to do? I know that, yeah, that was just part of our session 2 today. I have a client who has as if angel wings that she wraps around herself. And that's what we did today as well, helping her because there were words coming from others that were triggering her. So she's learning now and practicing how to, in her mind, envelop herself in those angel wings so that only the love and positive intentions of these words of that the other person, it can come in, but nothing else, like no negative whatever blah blah can impact her. It just bounces off the wings. So you can do something like that for you too. Those are easy things. It just depends. What do you want? What are you struggling with right now? What is the challenge? And get creative. The answers are not always in your logical brain. This might look like such a crazy mind game, like pretend play, basically, like something you would do with your kids. Imagine you're a princess and we are in a castle with unicorns and rainbows. Well, it does work. Even if I tell you, do not think about the big skyscraper with the blue crane that has the red and white arm that's turning right now in your direction. Did you see that in your mind? Like you have to see it in your mind's eye in order not to think about it. I told you not to think about it. How come you did? Your brain listens to everything. Your body hears everything you say, even if it's just silently in your head. Nature is powerful. It's designed and it's meant to help you. So let it help you. Feed it with positive things and just use your imagination for what you want, instead of making it frustrate you, be anxious about the future, feel guilty or ashamed about the past. Stop. You don't have to be there. Okay. Well, this was and will be my day. Those are the big aha moments as I'm thinking through it. And I think that's all I wanted to share with you. It was a little bit all over the place, even though the roots are always the same in every podcast episode. You have much more power than you give yourself the credit for. So now it's just all a matter of focus. And I hope that from this episode, you can choose one thing that you will have fun with in the coming days, that you will try on and see what it does. One thing. I don't want you to get overwhelmed because I was jumping all over the place and sharing so much. Choose one thing and let me know which one thing is it for you. And after you get some results, let me know what results did you get. You always have there the link in the description of this podcast to share a review, share a comment. And I want you to do this not because of my ego. My ego doesn't care. I want you to do this because by sharing, you inspire others who might be struggling with the same. They just don't have the courage to say it out loud. You're helping them too. You're the inspiration for others. This is the beautiful ripple effect of your own work. Through your healing, you're helping others do the same. So I appreciate you a lot, Supermom, for taking the time to continue on your path, because I know your time and attention is one of your most precious, valuable resources, and you don't have enough of them. So by you being here, it tells me that you care, you see the value in it, and that's the best indication for me that you will succeed. So maybe that's the thought that I will leave you with. Celebrate how far you've come already. And if there's any judgmental, critical voice in your head telling you otherwise, give it all the reasons and proof why that's not true. Celebrate all of your wins, small and big. They all count. You're doing great. Take care, Supermom.